Hey everybody, welcome back to Andertons TV.
Hello.
Mick Taylor from That Pedal Show has come to spend the day with us, and we've had a very good day indeed. And one of the challenges that we've started doing with guests is taking their pedal boards and going, if we built a cheap in inverted commas, alternative pedal board, how close can we get? So of course, Mick from That Pedal Show couldn't be a better guest to do this with. I assume you have more than one board, do you? But is this your sort of go-to board?
Yeah, first of all, it's very kind of you to describe me as a guest, Lee. Thank you. We've been in shooting some videos today, so I'm very, it's great to be back.
You're always my guest when you come to Andertons.
Oh, bless you, mate. It kind of feels like home. It's great to be here. Yeah, I've got a bunch of gigs across the summer, and so I needed to put together a board that would do all of it. Like there's a rock gig, there's a kind of cheesy pub covers kind of gig, and there was a gig with an old band of mine, which was less cheesy and a bit more serious. And so Dan and I have both gone for, you'll find this ridiculous, we've both trying to shrink our boards to get lots of functionality on there and to get lots of good tone out of it, but not to have these huge things that become problematic to cut across a festival field. Even though, yeah, anyway, that's another story. So yeah, this is where we are at the moment.
So before you take us through the pedals,
Yep.
the rules of the challenge, if you like, is we're going to have a very strict budget per pedal. We're going to try and keep every pedal under 50 quid, although I've got a feeling we might have one or two pedals that go up. Certainly nothing over 100.
Wow.
I'm not going to try and replicate this.
Yep, so no switcher.
So there's no switcher. We're just going to chain the pedals up like they would.
Yep.
I am going to include a power supply,
Yep.
because I think it's important if you've got several pedals, you need a decent isolated power supply.
Yep.
And I'm going to assume that I'm going to find a bit of an old pallet somewhere, and I'm just going to get a bit of wood and put some Velcro on it, and that's going to be my board. So I'm going to assume that's the free bit. But other than that, we are going to try and find pedals for each of these, and we are going to try and do your wet dry rig. The challenge, by the way, uses the same guitar amplifiers for both boards, so we don't have to sort of budget out on those. Yeah, we reckon that including your switcher, this board is north of £4,000, don't we?
It's, yeah, I mean, these are all super premium pedals, some of which you can't get anymore. The switcher, the board itself is very expensive. You know, it's a lawyer and dentist's board, or it is a That Pedal Show board, whichever way you look at it.
I'm looking at the pedals that we've sort of pre-selected on the floor as the alternative ones here. I don't think we've done more than, I'll add it up at the end, but I certainly think we're below 500 quid for everything. We'll see. Okay, well look, take me through. So
Yeah, I'll explain it real briefly.
Yeah.
So the signal path is what we call TPS wet dry, which means all the overdrive devices, and they are a fuzz, a boost, an octafuzz, 2 stages of gain, another stage of gain. So all of that to there hits both amps all the time. Mm-hmm. And the split is done in the switcher here, the G3 switcher, because each of these pedals is in its own separate loop. And G3 can handle the routing within G3 itself to split that signal at any point and send it off to one amp and off to another. So we get to the end of here, and off we go to, in this case, the Tone King Royalist.
Yep. Which has no reverb in it either, so that's dry as dry can be, what's coming out of there.
But it does see the overdrive pedals, yeah. Then there's a split, and the first wet pedal is an analog delay, Chase Bliss Tonal Recall Red Knob model. The second wet dry pedal is actually under here, Harmonious Monk. I feel very bad about having it underneath, but anyway, there we are.
I think it's your modesty shining through. It's the anything to, I suppose in fairness, you've got the Argo on top.
It's the only place it would fit, because with a lot of these other pedals, I have to get to various functions. So I have to get to this to tap, I have to get to this to turn that on and off, and I have to get to that. Anyway, so, and the point of the wet dry split, watch That Pedal Show if you want to know about that, but once you started using 2 amps, it's so hard to
I notice you using this a lot in the videos we've shot, and we're not going to try and replicate this, but is this some sort of real time allows you to blend in the amount of wet, or what was happening here?
This controls purely the level of the delay.
Right, okay, fine.
So as many of you may know, if you have a clean sound and you hit a delay, your delay is a certain volume. If you hit it with an overdrive, the delay gets really loud. So you can choose how much delay level you want off the expression pedal. In addition, this is the Chase Bliss Fave switch, which allows me to select 3 presets from here.
Right. We won't be able to do any of that on our affordable board. We will simply have an on-off delay pedal.
Yeah, and that's fine because you can bend down and make the changes quickly. I much prefer having all the stuff accessible. So if you need to make a quick change, you can just bend down and change something really quickly, you know.
Well, through the magic of editing, what I am going to do is shift this pedal board over and just magically appear our alternatively pedal board over here. But before we do that, would you give us some flavour of like, what is it, you know, take us through a nice clean sound, some of the layered drives, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll talk you through it. I would just want to play some humbuckers quickly. If it was just 1 amp, dry only, this is the sound you get. It's really dry and it's not that
Sahara
exciting
Desert,
really.
I agree.
But as you'll hear, if I hit it with an overdrive, it will take the overdrive.
Wet dry is something that I think the professional guitar players have known about for decades, but shows like that pedal show have kind of, it's almost like never really been explained. You just saw guitar players on stage with multiple amplifiers and just didn't really understand why.
Most of your favourite guitar players, 2 amps.
Yeah, but you I think, or your channel has sort of educated the world, like, why is that?
Yeah.
And it's not just to have more amps on stage, right?
Yeah, and it's not stereo, okay? Don't confuse it with stereo. It's nothing to do with stereo. What it is if you're playing a guitar in a studio, if you're Eddie Van Halen and you've got your Marshall cranked, that's the dry sound, right, with the overdrive. And via studio, they'll add post effects. Now, we're not exactly doing that, but what we are doing is keeping that dry thing perfectly dry, so it doesn't get, and when I say dry, I mean with overdrive, so it doesn't get muddied up, it doesn't get too confused sounding, and you can use your wet effects separately.
Yeah.
And then what that means is you can actually run it pretty wet, but still have a very audible sound. Now, it's been done many ways over the years. What I find with doing it this way is, if for whatever reason I'm only using 1 amp, it doesn't matter. You can turn the dry amp off and you've still got all your sound.
I think I can hear already what you mean about the mush.
Yeah, because it's a very
so if we put the dry amp slightly back in. I don't think, look, we got such a juxtaposition of what guitar players need to do. You know, on the one hand, more and more guitar players are going, I can't even take an amp at all. I'm just going full digital. Yeah. And then you've got on the other hand, you're going, well, you don't need 1 amp. You need 2 amplifiers.
It's not about need for me. It's about, I play guitar because I love it and no other reason.
Yeah.
So, every gig I'm doing this summer will be 2 amps.
Yeah.
One of them will be 100 watts. And I haven't had a sound man yet, or a sound professional yet, moan about it.
Yeah.
Not one. So I'm still extremely passionate about making sure, as a guitar player, you enjoy your time. And if you don't, stay at home and have a nice glass of wine. I mean, that's what I would rather do. But
let's just very, very quickly just go sort of individually. What do they all sound like?
Okay, well, I'll do this. I'll
and...
do this super quick then.
Yeah.
The fuzz isn't in a loop, and it is a fuzz face style fuzz. So if I've got the guitar on this, sorry if this is a bit loud, but you know.
Dirty old fuzz sound.
Yeah, it takes a minute. You just got to balance it up with the amps, loads of low end.
Yeah.
But it's for that classic Jimmy thing.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I don't actually use it that much in the gigs I'm doing at the minute. Argo Boost Deluxe is a clean boost. You heard it a bit before on one side. And then you can switch in an octave fuzz part of the circuit, which is the classic clean octave blend in the Prescription Electronics format. Which is a sound I love.
It's a great sound.
I love it. Super subtle as well,
right,
if you want to do that. This is a tube overdrive, and I use this as a sort of fatter kind of overdrive. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to switch over to some humbuckers a minute. For another video that we shot today, we went and picked this rubbishy old Murphy SG.
That is definitely not going to be here after the last video that you did, if that comes out first.
And I have totally fallen in love with it.
Oh, maybe it won't be here by the end of the day.
So the Balladeer, so this is a kind of a mid-focused overdrive. So that's that, and then this one is sort of more rock. It kind of does a very similar job, but it's a little bit more rock orientated than this. I think of this as kind of like the bluesy Robin Fordy thick mids thing, and I think of this as the rock.
Okay.
Rock the rock.
Would you ever use these together?
Absolutely, yeah. But what I would do is I'd set this gain quite low, probably start off over here on the Balladeer.
I'm feeling already nervous about how close we're going to get with
I think we're gonna
super budget pedals.
I think we're going to get really
Oh,
close.
I don't know. All right, okay.
And
So
there's so much gain here.
Yeah.
I quite often, either via sound check or via the first tune or so, is just figure out where that is.
Yeah.
And that's another reason I really like single sound pedals, because you can just change things instantly. But anyway, analog delay. I fell in love with analog delay again just recently. I got all the delays, but I just plugged this in and I was like, do you know what?
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a listen to that further. It's ridiculously complicated because you've got the extra pedal to control the level, but also this switch gives me 3 separate presets of this.
Fine.
So anyway, here's the standard delay sound.
got a little bit of modulation, I think, coming off here, which just sounds lovely. I love that. Don't turn it off.
So when you play a chord, you get the modulation on the chord. So it's chorus.
I should watch that pedal show more because this is a clever idea. I often find I'm having to bend down to change the mix level on my delay pedal because it's either not enough or too much. And
it might be that, you know, at the beginning of a song, there's a intro to a song I play, you want loads of delay level. You got tap, right? So and you want it all spacey like that.
Yeah, and then you're into the main bit and you just want to back it down a little bit.
Yeah, if you then step on a load of overdrive, you don't want that amount of level.
Yeah.
So I've got tap on here, but in addition, I've got 3 presets set up. One is just my standard tap, so whatever tempo the song's at, I can tap. The second preset is like a doubling chorus delay. And I use that for kind of...
It's huge, Mick. I'm playing. Oh dear. I mean, the sound, obviously. Wow.
I'm trying to stick away from the copyright stuff, but we are the champions, and we do Radio Gaga, is it, or I Want to Break Free. And I don't have multiple AC30s and delay pedals, but to get the Brian, I just double it up and stick the mod on it.
Does sound good.
And then finally, a slap back, because it's so hard to tap slap, right? So...
It's very
almost
fast
inaudible,
and subtle, isn't it? Yeah.
What's cool about that is if you're playing like a solo sound, just makes
it, doesn't it?
Wider and quite 80s sound.
I love it. And then we've got the tremolo.
Harmonious Monk. This is the star of the show, Wet Dry, because what you get, you will swear is stereo.
Right. Well, nobody probably needed to be convinced that this was going to be a great sounding board, right? It's a great sounding board, but...
These amps sound great too. Like 2 amps that, I mean, obviously I know the V40 Deluxe really well, don't know that very well, but it just proves 2 amps, we literally just didn't muck about. Works.
Yeah. Okay, right. Through the power of editing, the next thing you will see on screen is our affordable version. Oosh! Right, here we have...
I can feel him in the room when you do that.
Okay, so as we go through these...
This looks killer.
This is our little board. So we've gone, instead of the facet, we've gone the Rusty Fuzz from TC. So we've spent £35 so far.
Okay, so the important thing about the fuzz for me is that it cleans up, right?
All right. In fact, there's one other thing I just need to tell you is that obviously instead of your... What do you reckon you've spent on power supplies and everything in here?
500 for whatever Gen X 14 is.
fine. I don't know what a Gen X 14
It's 400
is.
and something, I
but
think.
we've spent £79
There you go.
for this, and that includes all the cables and the power supply to do it. So
Happy days.
I actually could have got away with spending £59 because we only needed the 8-way one of those. But that's the Tone City something, power something
And
or
I've
other.
got to say, so far, hearing no noise. So that's pretty decent.
That's
so
a good
far.
start, right?
Yeah.
So Rusty Fuzz sounds like this. That sounds more squidged and compressed and
Sounds more like a tone bender than a fuzz face style to me. And I know lots of people that will prefer that because you don't get that huge flubby bottom end. But what it doesn't do is clean up.
so if I let's put more fuzz in and less tone. Actually, where do you have? You don't have a tone control as such on here, do you?
Not really.
All right. So I've just put more fuzz and turn the tone down a little bit just to see.
I like it. I like the way it does that gated thing.
Yep.
But what it doesn't do is the fuzz face cleanup thing.
Yep.
Which is
So
1000% important.
might be a fail then on the Rusty Fuzz. Should have got
like it. I like it. I love the gated thing.
So your Argo boost, I've done a mini spark boost. It's £39.
I know this is going to be great.
So without.
I'll tell you what I am going to do, just for these sounds.
I'm going to do this.
I'm going to do
the Hanson.
the other guitar because what I tend to use the boost for is to just put a bit of girth around the clean Strat sounds.
Could we hear this with the
Yeah.
Hanson again? I agree. It sounds good full bore.
Great sound.
Doesn't clean up as well.
Yeah, yeah. Reminds me of a tone bender.
So the Spark.
So it is doing that thing in a really nice way.
This is one of the oldest TC pedals
Yeah.
in the range now, and I think it just does what it says on the tin.
Listen to how much boost that is,
Yeah.
though. It's killer.
If you needed some EQ, you just buy the slightly bigger Spark Boost, which is another 20 quid or something like that, and then you've got some treble,
Bass
middle,
and
and
treble.
bass and
Yeah,
stuff on there.
it's
if you want
popular
to.
for a reason, isn't it?
Yep. Okay.
I'm
Octavia.
not laughing at 75 quid, all right? I appreciate that's money for a lot of people, but yeah, it's hilarious when you consider the price of some of this stuff.
Octavia is where we're going to get the.
So this is a take
Octave.
on the Tycho Bray. This is much more a Jimmy sounding octave as far as I'm aware. So it might be that we add some fuzz to this in a minute.
Sure.
But, oh, it's got fuzz in it as well.
Do you think that's where potentially the really expensive fuzzes versus the cheap ones are more obvious? Like, as in, what does it do when the volume rolls down? Or is that just...
It's a huge deal on vintage fuzz face types like that. In that one, there's in my Reeves Facet, there is an original NOS transistor from the period where they made the classic fuzz faces. Now they all vary, right? There's massive variance over transistors, but they are selected very carefully. And I think to do it on a budget, you need to iron some of that out. So there's probably, what's interesting about the Rusty Fuzz is I bet it's more consistently the same from pedal to pedal, Whereas in your modern boutique fuzz, which somebody with a beard in a shed makes, hey Marcus, they're individual instruments in their own right, I think is what you get.
Now, you would typically have the boost into the fuzz on the Argo. Are we going to get the same effect or not really?
Slightly confusing because it is actually the same circuit. So
Fine.
what you're doing is you're just turning the octafuzz off. But yeah, have them on together. What this will... and if you turn the fuzz on now,
if someone had plugged that sound in and said, here's the new £300 da-da-da-da, you'd be like, yeah, baby. Okay, Nuix Steel Singer. You just mentioned with one of these things that it did a mid-boost dumbly thing, so I just thought, I'm just going to type in the word dumble pedal and find what's cheapest.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's what this is specifically designed to do, that's what I use it to do. So the mid-rich thing that we associate with the Dumble overdrive sound. So obviously Nux are using that.
£30. So we're up to £165 now is what we've spent so far.
Right, hang on. So when you sell that, you get paid.
Yeah.
When whoever you bought it off gets paid.
I think we're going dangerously close to exploitation of the workforce in China here. But
No,
yes, absolutely. I tell you who makes the most money out of that, though, I suspect is Her Majesty's Finest with the VAT man. So yes, the VAT man gets paid, we get paid, Nuix gets paid.
I can't believe
somebody in
you
a factory gets
can
paid.
make that out of metal, ship it halfway across the world and sell it in here for what, 30 quid?
It is metal, yeah, absolutely.
Get out of town. It definitely passes the pub test for me. The pub test is if I walk past the pub, not that this happens anymore because pubs don't have loud bands, and I hear that guitar tone coming out of a pub, I'm walking in because it's pretty decent.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It doesn't have the girth of that, and if it did, I'd have to give up and go and do something else because.
I don't disagree. I mean, as you say, you could buy 20 of those for the price of one of those.
Yeah, and you stack two of them together.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. Okay.
I lied. We're at 165, but I forgot to include the power supply. So actually, we're at something like 245. This, I think, was our most expensive pedal, the Tube Pilot, and which you said, do you know that's got a tube in it, Lee? And I went, has it?
Dan and I put it on the show when we were doing the show with the Venus, and we could not believe it. Was it 79 quid?
It's
99 quid?
69.
69
so we're at, give or take a fiver. My brain's hurts now. I'm going to just say we're at about 300 quid so far with this. And yeah, it has a tube, so it's presumably trying to be the TC affordable version of the Venus, right?
Well, actually of the tube driver.
Chandler tube driver thing.
BK Butler, yeah. So it's got a load of output, if I remember correctly, and it's quite bright sound.
What would you prefer?
No, I'll tell you what's important. I played these with humbuckers earlier. So.
Okay. Right, so we've gone back to humbuckers and let's see what this does.
So it's great. It's really, really brash. You'd want to... there's no EQ on it, so you'd want to adjust EQ somewhere else. In the amp, for example...
It's a chewy sounding overdrive, though, isn't it?
Dan and I said, regardless of the
£70.
price,
Yeah.
it is a really, really, really great pedal. I do think it requires some sort of EQ somewhere else in the chain.
We are substantially lower than the £500 I thought we were going to get to here, so I suspect we could easily afford to go and find an EQ pedal to stick in there.
Or shape it with something else.
Yeah, how might you... There's a little bit of EQ on this. What would you do if I
would turn the gain down,
and
turn the volume up so it's kind of boosty. Yeah, other way, yeah.
It's not very subtle, is it? It's just bosh.
Yeah, it is. It is. And maybe you change something in the amp to get there. But as a tube overdrive, certainly if you've got a darker sounding amp, or a dark sounding guitar for that matter, remember this is SG, we're super impressed with it. Super impressed.
So, P-Split we have in the studio all the time. It's a little passive ground lift device, but it can also do a 1-in, 2-out thing. So we're just using this. You could have got any ABY pedal.
Any ABY switch, gig rig humdinger, anything that will flip the phase on the second output and isolate
That's
it.
true. Not every ABY pedal will have a phase button, will it? But
and
this does.
Important in case your amps are not the same polarity.
Yeah.
So it's important to have that functionality.
So we're using this. I have to be honest with you, the number of times this Leather P-Split has cured a noise problem in this studio, it's honestly, this would make it into, after our cameras and microphones, which are obviously pretty essential for making YouTube videos, I'd probably put this down as the next most important piece of kit. And it's not crazy expensive, and it's completely passive. I think it's 99 quid or something like that. It's just a super useful device to just chuck. If you got noise anywhere, you chuck this in between wherever the start of the noise is and the end of the noise is, and you just go 9 times out of 10 cures it.
We always talk about your second output must be isolated. Yeah. That's what ISO means, and it is utterly essential if you're going to use 2 amps.
Of course, if you happen to work with Dan from the Gig Rig, he'll have his own version of it, no doubt. Okay, so this was our cheapest pedal on the board, I think. The vintage delay was £22.
So do we think this is supposed to sound analog, or it is analog?
It comes up as an analog delay pedal, so
we
shall see.
My sort of standard go-to delay is about 345 milliseconds, with like 2 and a bit repeats. Kind of somewhere around there.
Yep.
So that might be a bit loud actually once we step on overdrive, but if you give me some of the, let's have some of the tube pilot. A bit less gain.
Other way around.
Again, passes the pub test.
And then finally, some tremolo. What have we got? Depth, bias, and speed. So I don't know where you would want that, but there you go.
Yeah, so because these pedals are coming after the split, they're only going to the wet amp, right? So they're only going to the Victory.
This is the Moa Trelicopter, by the way, if you're sort of looking
orange,
for...
yeah. So the trem will only be coming out of the Victory, and this will give you that sort of pseudo stereo. Again, it's not harmonic, but it will sound cool.
The harmonic monk has a movement that's a bit more three-dimensional, I think, than the Trelicopter.
Yeah, because there's some phasing and modulation in the movement, so
Right.
it's somewhere towards a vibe.
Right.
But that, I mean, that's cool. If we give it a bit more speed.
Well,
man.
set up a very quick, like, get a sound out of all of the, you know, like that you like, and then we'll just very quickly finish up back with it. We'll try and match a sound, if you like, and then that's the end of the video. I feel like we've ended up, if you include the Lella, we've spent sort of, you know, circa just 450-ish, something like that. But I kind of feel like the Lella sort of shouldn't really count here. I doubt very much that somebody trying to do a wet dry wig, you know, having just spent £2,000 on guitar amplifiers, is going to be trying to put a pedal board like this together.
Yeah.
But as a straightforward single amp all the way through, I think it's quite a good working little pedal board.
It's killer. There's a lot of flavour on there. What I'm missing, the thing I'm missing, is tone controls in the gain sounds.
Yeah.
That's what I'm missing.
Yeah.
So other than that, it's
right.
all working nice.
Apart from a filter control here, we haven't got a single. Oh, we've got a tone control on the Rusty Fuzz, but we haven't used that very much. I agree. Kind of needs another. I don't know what I'd be inclined to do. Probably buy the bigger Spark and have the Spark always on.
Yeah.
And then just use that as EQ.
Yeah. Or mod the Tube Pilot with a with a tone knob.
I think that sounds decent.
It sounds really decent.
I am just...
The magic is in the two amps, I
I'm
think.
just going to literally plug you back into the input. The orange is the wet output. The purple is... And let's just quickly get a sound that was a bit like the one you just had.
Okay.
And let's see if it's even remotely close.
Yeah, everyone will be like, it's much better! What did we have on? We had on all this malarkey, didn't we?
We had a bit of tube fuzz. We had that on. We had that on, and we would have had that on, and that's probably. It's not a million miles different, that's for sure. Anyway, Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Links to all of these will be below if you fancy putting a board like this together. We'll try and do it with the next guest too. Mr. Mick, we've come to the end of our day.
Oh, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here, Lee.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and for proving the law of diminishing marginal returns so spectacularly.
Please join us again for another video soon. Like and subscribe and all that. But yes, thanks, Mick. I'll see you again soon too.
See ya.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.